Okay, thank you. No, yeah, we can see you now. Thank you. I think we've got everyone, and I want to just echo um, Farah's welcome earlier. Just thank you all for being here. I know we haven't met in a couple months. Really wanted to allow our LEAs to get settled in their school year, and so we've pushed some of the meetings back, but we're happy to be back together. And so today we really want to we sent out some of the information and agenda and things like that. We want to have some discussion on our plan, our implementation plan, and I say ours, the countywide implementation plan for the um, CYBHI School Link Capacity Grant. And so we'll go over some of that today. And we just want to have some in-depth conversation and discussion with you all to further how we can implement this plan. So Jameen, go to the next slide. We want to make sure that we're hearing from all of our partners and everyone has a part in this. And so we want to make sure that first and foremost, everyone is on the same page about what we are trying to accomplish in this capacity grant. Jameen, you're showing us something. So everyone kind of knows what CYBHI is. These slides are going to be in the live binder. They'll be available for you all. I won't go over this slide because for the most part, everyone knows about CYBHI, right? So I don't want to take too much time on this slide, but this is something if someone needs to go back to, they can certainly go back and read this slide. Jameen, go to the next slide. So we are really focusing, Lisa, our partner from Molina, she spoke about SB HIP, which is the Student Behavioral Health Incentive Program that's almost sunsetting. So our MCPs have done a great job of ushering this work into our county. And so we are now moving into the two circled work streams for CYBHI. And we are mostly focusing on the School Link partnership and capacity grants. The multi-payer fee schedule is going to be supported through our School Link partnership capacity grant funds that we receive for our county. And our county received $24 million really to be reimbursed, to be distributed to our LEA partners who want to participate in the grant program, right? So that money is being dispersed across our county for LEAs who at some point intend to utilize the statewide multi-payer fee schedule. Okay, so I want to make sure we're just all on the same page. You have the School Link partnership that is going to support funds that were given to each of the 58 counties in our state to be distributed to LEAs who want to at some point utilize the multi-payer fee schedule. Okay, so that's why we have both of these circled. SB HIP was our step into this direction. And so we've been doing some of this work with our MCPs and some of our LEAs. Some of the LEAs who are in our conversation today are our SB HIP participating LEAs. And so that's why we brought them in, because they have already been doing a lot of this work and they can help with some of the guidance from the LEA standpoint that we would need to be considering. So appreciate our LEAs being here to support that and to be a thought partner in this journey. Next slide, Jameen. So as I was saying, these are the two buckets, the two focuses that we are really on in our county right now from the school standpoint, capacity grant, fee schedule. Our LEAs are becoming very involved in these two work streams. So in our capacity grant, and you kind of see what that says, this one-time investment, I kind of just said that, enabling the county office and the local education agencies to build necessary infrastructure and partnerships to achieve the long-term sustainable funding. And again, one of the long-term sustainable funding models is that multi-payer fee schedule, okay? And that fee schedule is funding that aims to increase the number of LEAs who meet the fee schedule or operational readiness requirements and expand access by increasing the availability, equity, and range of behavioral health services. So when we're talking about the multi-payer fee schedule, the easy way to say this is our reimbursement to commercial insurance, okay? Commercial insurance and our other in our MCPs for general ed students, okay? So this goes beyond our Medi-Cal enrolled students, and it goes beyond our students in special ed services, okay? So again, this is just setting the stage for our discussion, make sure we're all on the same page. Next slide, Jameen. And if we have questions, Mara and team, please stop me if there's things in the chat that, because we all family in this small piece. It's only 20 some of us. So if people have discussions right away, certainly open for clarifying questions. So when we're talking about the SchoolLink partnership and capacity grant, there's three focuses or three objectives for the capacity grant, okay? And our LEAs who are in the room, they're a part of this. This is really for some of our other partners who may not be aware of what the grant has been about. But really, the fee schedule readiness, what I talked about, expanding access to services, to behavioral health services, and then the collaborative infrastructure. That's really where we live, right? This network, this behavioral health network, is really around the collaborative infrastructure needed for our county to really do these other two things around expanding access and getting our LEAs and our community-based organizations ready to utilize the fee schedule, okay? So our collaborative infrastructure is really for that. Did somebody open up their mic to talk? If that, maybe we need to mute someone, Jameen, you guys. So next slide, Jameen. So this is a list of our participating LEAs we have currently in our capacity grant. And when we're talking about participating LEAs, I'm talking about the LEAs who have chosen to be a part of the CYBHI SchoolLink partnership and capacity grant. We have 59 LEAs who are participating. This is a list of the school districts who are participating, okay? So just give you an idea of some of the partner LEAs who are involved, district LEAs who are participating, district LEAs, I guess that's the same thing, districts who are participating. And then next slide is going to be give you an idea of the charter schools who are participating in the capacity grant. We also have, again, capacity grant, and we have the fee schedule. We also have 16 LEAs who are participating in the multi-payer fee schedule cohorts, cohort 1, cohort 2, and cohort 3. We have 16 districts in our county, or LEAs in our county, who are participating in that. And we didn't put the list of schools in there or LEAs in any slides. I can certainly give you guys that as well. Right now in cohort 1, we had Rialto, and Rialto is here. Rialto and Redlands are in our cohort 1. And they have yet to be to do any claims yet. So the state is still working things out. The state is really working with, they are working with Harupa from Southern California. It's another district from the Northern California who are kind of piloting the claims right now, but no one has been able to actually send any claims as of yet. The state is allowing any of the cohort 1 districts or LEAs to send back claiming from July, okay? So that's just, again, just some information for what's to come and what's happening. Next slide. This slide is a slide we developed with our for our partners to use to kind of give them an idea of the deliverables and a timeline deliverable for the grant. Of recent, the grant was extended to 2027, and that's really recent in the last 3 weeks. The grant was supposed to end in 2026. The state did just allow an extension to July of 27. Each county was allowed to choose to utilize the extension or not to. San Bernardino County did elect to utilize the extension so that our participating LEAs had the opportunity to push out the usage of the funding and the work being done. So we are, as a county, going to be doing we'll be working in the capacity grant until July of 2027. Okay. And so we have an opportunity in the next 2 years to build the infrastructure, the collaborative infrastructure. And this group, again, when I say we, this group is we're be utilized to build that collaborative infrastructure for our county that will allow for fee schedule readiness and access to behavioral mental health services. Okay, that's really what we want to use this space for. Any reactions, thoughts from what you've heard so far? Anybody? Thoughts? Done a lot of talking. This is checking for an understanding. Any thoughts?
James, I'm excited that it's been expanded to 2027. That means our partnership continues to grow.
That's right. Thank you, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other reactions?
James
Yes.
and Samarita, along with Sylvia, I am happy that SB chose to extend or take the state up on its extension. If we've learned anything with SB HIP, it takes longer than we expect. And granted, you all are in the same system, so I'm guessing that it would be easier speaking each other's language, but you know, things always come up. So having extra time is always great.
Yeah. And as you're saying, we're school people, but I think that's the nuance of this project, this grant, this opportunity is really, we have to extend beyond that, right? We certainly have to build the muscle as a county to translate language and to really create the space and the environment for all of our kids and families to thrive. So it's going to be very important that we get outside of the school space and school thinking and really develop the right vocabulary, language, approach that crosses all of our professional organizations and occupations and all those things. So Amrita, it's going to be huge for us to break through that wall that SB HIP has actually helped us identify as such a barrier for us to really get this done. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that, Amrita. One more reaction, anyone? I want to wait until 2:30, y'all. I'm gonna wait.
I put it in the chat. I put it in the chat. James says, and the same thing, just echoing that we're very grateful for the extension.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Especially because we don't have a lot of guidance from the state.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah that will help.
No, thank you. Yeah, and that's so true. And for our partners, our LEAs who are participating in the grant are very much aware of. There's a lot of learning that the state is doing while we're doing this work. And so for our partners who are just hearing this or who are not working in this every day, there's a lot of changes that are happening. Dr. Haugen, so you said you had a question about the list of cohort 2 San Bernardino districts.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, James.
No.
The state website lists San Bernardino School District.
Mm-hmm. That was it.
Well, I feel a little ignorant. I know San Bernardino City Unified School District. I know County Superintendent of Schools.
Yeah.
What is San Bernardino School District?
San Bernardino City is one of the cohort schools. San Bernardino City. Unified.
So San Bernardino City is listed in cohort 3.
They're
So
on
is this
cohort
just a
2.
typo?
Yeah, that must be a typo. So in our cohort
Typo,
2,
okay.
our cohort 2 schools are OMSD, San Bernardino City, Upland, Fontana, Colton, and one of our high desert charter Summit
Right.
Leadership Academy. Those are our districts that are participating in cohort 2. Our cohort 3 districts, and again, we can get you guys. We have this all in the live binder for folks to really be able to see it. But Allegiant STEM Academy, Apple Valley Unified, Excelsior.
No, I'm good
Charter.
with the rest. Your list was good. I
Okay.
just got confused at the
Okay.
state site. Thanks, James.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so we have a lot of districts who are interested in this, and I know we have to better understand. And when I say we, school folks really have to better understand this broader system. And I've had much conversation with Dr. Haugen about this. The implications of the fee schedule sounds good with we're going to get reimbursed, but there's a lot of understanding and a lot of comprehension that needs to be understood to truly maximize it appropriately, right? And so part of our role is to provide guidance for our districts to maximize all of the different funding streams that can be utilized to provide behavioral health access to students, right? And so we want to just, again, level the playing field. We got districts who are excited, but again, the state is learning, and as the state is learning, the county is learning, and the county office for us, the county school office, really wants to be able to translate the learnings and the understanding to our LEA so that they can maximize it all. Jameen, go to the next slide, please. So one of the deliverables in the capacity grant was each county first had to submit an implementation plan. And the implementation plan was very comprehensive. It looked at 4 different areas of focus in the implementation plan. One was around Medi-Cal enrollment. Another area was service delivery, and they had an area around data, and lastly around billing infrastructure. In all 4 of those areas, they had different deliverables that could be addressed or focused on. For our county, we spent our time and we seen the most benefit in us looking at the collective impact part of the implementation plan, as well as the data and billing infrastructure. Okay, so when they were asking the county offices to complete this implementation plan, it was really asking it where the county offices would actually do work. So for San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, we do not provide therapy from our office, right? That's not something that we do from the county office side. Our student service side does provide that, and they are a contract. But this implementation plan was really from our side of county schools, in that what we would do. And so we did not do anything around service delivery because we don't see ourselves providing direct services to students, right? We did not put anything around Medi-Cal billing as part of our plan. We do partner with Rebecca and her team to support our districts in their enrollment of Medi-Cal, but we were not going to directly do anything around Medi-Cal billing. We want to really focus our attention on, first and foremost, this collective impact approach, and that's the work that we're going to be doing, but also around the data collection of information. When I say data, not that the county office is going to be pulling the data for services that's being available to students, but the data mechanism or infrastructure of how our LEAs would capture the data for the services being done. And so as you see in these 4 squares here, we talk about four things that we want to do to really impact collectively our county. And the first one is highlighted in blue. We've talked about this as a group around developing a resource guide that can be utilized across systems and can be given to our LEAs, right? And so we really want to, one, focus on developing this guide. So we want to use some of the funding and money that the state has provided for us to do some of the collective impact work around this guide that we discussed last year. Okay, so we're going to be breaking into small breakout rooms. We're going to have some questions around this resource guide. Today we have some small group. We didn't have very many people say that they were going to go, so we didn't know who was going to attend, who were going to come to this meeting. So now that everyone's here, I'm happy that everybody came, because we only had 10 people say they were coming, so I got scared. But we got 20 something, so we're going to do some small breakout rooms to discuss how we can impact some of these 4 squares. Okay, so we're going to first talk. We're going to have a question around the development, this development of the resource guide. Okay, I'm kind of giving Jameen an opportunity to set up those rooms, and we'll take just around 5-6 minutes each, just for this one around the resource guide, just asking you all, what are some of those components, and what are the things that we want to make sure could be a part of a resource guide to support our students and our LEAs in fee schedule readiness. And again, this is funding, sustainable funding, as well as access to services. Okay, those are the things that we really want to be focusing on. Maximizing our dollars, maximizing the dollars for sustainability for services across systems, right? And then secondly, how we can make sure that there is services that are available for our students and their families. Okay, Jameen, are those rooms prepared?
Yes, they're ready.
Okay, so we're gonna go to that next slide real quick before you go there, Jameen, so everyone can see the question. So as you see, the discussion question, we're going to take about 5-6 minutes to allow people to speak. What, from your purview and the work that you do in the system that you're part of the system, what resources and tools would be most useful to include in a toolkit and a guide for sustainability and access for behavioral mental health services? Jameen, if you will, please randomly create those rooms and allow people to go to them and set them for 6 minutes. And you guys, please accept those rooms.
And it looks like somebody has a question of who the audience is.
So the audience for the toolkit, thank you, Jillian. So the audience would be our local education agencies. So if a school district, if there's a school who wants to begin to do this work, they have no systems in place. We want to help provide a resource guide for them to establish, maintain, and refine their systems for behavioral mental health, sustainability, access to services, all the things that would support students in, of course, their academic and success, the academic and personal success through behavioral and mental health service delivery.
Gotcha.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'll join.
Yes.
James, should we pause the recording while people?
Yeah. Jameen, will you do that, please? So thank you all for returning. And we had in the three rooms. If to hear what was said, we have some reporting, folks who set up some reporting. I will go to room 1 where Karen and Veronica were. Karen, you guys had someone to report back to the group?
Yeah, I took notes, so I'll share back since I have the notes.
Mhm.
Let's see. So we had conversations around partnering with the managed care plans. Rialto has a family summit. They're offering vaccinations. And then we had some conversation around tier 1 and tier 2 services. A lot of the tier 3 services are received through IEPs. And then how do we help support our students and for all students, general education and students with IEPs? That was a lot of the conversation that I collected. Anything else to add?
And when you guys talked about tier 1, tier 2, that's one of the major points that I think is very important. I know you guys had Dr. Haugen in there. Dr. Haugen, can you, for the group, can you kind of just speak to when we're saying tier 1, tier 2, what that means, and even at tier 3, what does that mean for our LEAs and the behavioral health and mental health system at large when we're talking about our school age services?
I
Will
think
you
it's
be
going to
willing to
be a
talk about
point of
that?
confusion. Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a point of confusion, and I'd love for an MCP to chime in and speak to this as well. You know, we're not very firm about the tier level that DHCS has set up in terms of children receiving behavioral health services. And so there tends to be a lot of blurring, but what is a point of confusion is the systems that schools implemented, like PBIS, where you have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, those really do not align necessarily. And so frequently a tier 2 kid in schools may need mental health services at the tier 3 level. It is actually quite difficult to differentiate at times because the intention is the kid who is having mediocre problems right now or medium problems, if they're going to be getting worse, then they should be connected to the behavioral health system that I'm connected to, the mental health plan. But that's really hard to tell, right? So it's supposed to be fluid. And then once you start working with someone, it's very difficult to then shift them over to another provider. From my perspective, it seems like the critical element of the toolkit is making sure that a school district or a LEA that's involved in this understands how to access additional resources from the MCP so that the same level of care is being provided, for example, a psychiatrist at that level. And then being able to differentiate when should we ask for something more intensive and what does that look like, and pulling one of my programs into play.
Absolutely. And Dr. Haugen, if you could quickly, I know you say you would like one of the MCPs to talk. One of the other aspects or things I would love for you to just to bring into the space is the importance of our LEAs understanding where those contracts, where they live in the continuum of care, right? Where they are not there to provide tier 1, tier 2. They are not there as your therapist for your school. If you could kind of talk about that as well.
Well, I may be getting a little confused for me, James, and I'm sorry, but I think the critical thing is that a school district that's going to start engaging in providing mental health services to their students needs to understand the environment in which they're doing that in, right? So they have the managed care plan as resources for them, and they have for Medi-Cal beneficiaries, and this is the thing about the fee schedule, it's not limited to Medi-Cal beneficiaries, right? So if you're working with a Medi-Cal beneficiary through the fee schedule and it seems as though things are not improving, then consider, should we bring in a different program through the Department of Behavioral Health? We do have many programs that provide services on campuses, and so there isn't a reason why that couldn't be done on campus. this is extremely simplistic, so I apologize, but it does seem as though one difference between the tier 3 level of care and the tier 2 level of care and the tier 3 level of care is how much of a team of mental health providers you have involved in the care of the kid. And so the ability to pull in a case manager or a rehab specialist to do additional services beyond therapy, including one-to-one coaching, is where, you know, that's more accessible for us than it is through the managed care plans. Does that get your, does that answer your question, James? Did I put that? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think the MCPs, I mean, please chime in and throw some more
Sure.
information there. That'd be
I'll
helpful.
chime in. So I think I reconcile the tiers in this way, and school folk, correct me if I'm wrong, but the bottom, middle, and top of your MTSS pyramid is all services, some services, and those who get a few of the services, right? And the way in my MCP head I look at is you have your between your second and third tier, or some and few, is where you have the clinical decision making from the school side to say, my student has been receiving services through the fee schedule that tend to impact those who are experiencing mild or moderate issues. And again, there is gray with children. But now, you know, we've seen them for several weeks, months, years, whatever, and they don't seem to be getting better. So we need to transition them to receiving more intensive services, and that you would get through county mental health. So from the managed care plan services that are authorized, which now will be approved through the fee schedule, and the more complex intensive services that county mental health provides, the state tells us, and you heard Dr. Haugen use the word seamless, it's supposed to be a seamless transition between both. That doesn't really occur like that, and we still hope to strive to make it seamless. But I think that's going to be part of this toolkit. It may be great to have some sort of scenarios when, you know, kids need to transition from that second level to that third level.
No, that's exactly, because Amrita and Dr. Haugen, it's, I don't know how known that is in our schools. And I know OMSD, who is one of the contract, a behavioral health contract, they have I'm sure they have a deep understanding of these. But even for Rialto, for Diana and Victor High School Union, how familiar are you all as an LEA with what we're talking about here? Sylvia, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I appreciate Dr. Haugen. Good to see you, Dr. Haugen. I haven't talked to you in a while. And Anne-Marie to kind of walk us through that. But that's exactly how it happens. We have a tier 1, obviously everyone, tier 2. There's a lot of training around encouraging school sites to develop some of those skills to bring on tier 2 services. And then between tier 2, it just depends on how much we need to wrap around the student. We reach out to our contracted providers like South Coast or Victor, those of that nature, to come in for mental health and case management supporting the family. So we tend to wrap around them depending on how severe it is with the kid, as well as continue with the tier 1 and tier 2 support in the school side.
Great. And before I move to the next group, Sylvia, how informed would you say school people are in general around that? Would you say this is something that we certainly need to put into the toolkit for school people?
Yes, I do think we need to put it into the toolkit for people, even though we've been doing it for a while. I mean, I want to think every month we're going back to schools and talking about the different levels, the different tiers, and all the resources that we have. And although we may have ABAs and BCBAs for behavioral on campus that was in SPED services and now going over to general ed population to support them. And then we consider that tier 3 once they get involved, and then they're consulting with me for mental health. And then we're reaching out to providers, our community providers, to help and bring those services into the school so the kid is not only receiving services at home, but in the school site as well as receiving those other tiers. I think that's hugely important, especially now we have, you know, a alarming number of students that's really challenged with regulating their emotions and acting out, and much like what Dr. Haugen said earlier, may be experiencing mental health challenges. There's a lot of trauma. And so school personnel being able to discern between that is hard, right? And so the scenarios will be hugely beneficial. And then if you have someone mental health wise on tier 3 level, then obviously you're consulting and you're kind of moving those kids, trying to seamlessly into services outside of the school district.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. So group 2, just what were some of the discussion and things that came out of your room?
So I'll go ahead and speak for room 2. So we talked a lot about examples of other funding that can provide sustainability, braiding of funding, also understanding that LEA BOP and the CYBHI multi-payer fee schedule are 2 completely different things, and maybe if we can create a clear path of what it looks like for LEA BOP and then the fee schedule, because Rebecca and I have encountered last week when we met with some of our charter schools that they don't understand the difference between the 2, or they think because they got the capacity grant that they don't need to enroll into LEA BOP to participate in the fee schedule. We also talked about understanding the difference between HIPAA and FERPA, specifically when you partner with community-based organizations, or if you're going to hire internally, so what that looks like. And then we also talked about how districts can share their process of gathering student health information, the consent forms that they're utilizing, how they're informing families and caregivers, and what that looks like. And then lastly, Gabby, she from OMSD, she shared that the state is actually working on forms that we can actually utilize to collect student health information. So, and I can let Gabby talk a little bit about that if anybody has any questions, but that's all we talked about in room 2.
Thank you. So very, very, very good. And again, these are certainly things that our LEAs are in need of understanding and being, having resources to build upon. So thank you for that, group 2. Group 3, Alex?
Yes, I appointed a reporter to report out, and that's Brenda. She's going to go ahead and report out on our conversation. We had great conversation, by the way.
Okay, so in our conversation in group, I think what we were trying to bring to the table is kind of going back to the bare basics, just to inform, for example, our parents, when they're going to be billing, when they accept to bill. Maybe a lot of our parents don't even know what benefits they have, or they have many questions about their benefits to see if their benefits are going to be affected, in some way or not. So I think having like a informed kind of consent, not informed, but frequently asked questions regarding what does this mean to you? Like, being a school-based service, billing through Medi-Cal, those kind of, frequently asked questions for the parent, but also developing like a module for staff, because just having so many programs out, LEA BOP and all the other ESMA, a lot of providers and staff, they might get confused, like as Marva said, they might be thinking one program is similar to the other, or they're the same thing. So I think developing like a guidance, kind of like it could be a module online, a short, for our staff employees, especially for our providers, it will be very helpful, just because we still even get, like, even through LEA BOP or some of the ESMA response, we get sometimes a little bit of pushback because employees don't know what they're doing. What is this for? What does this mean? I'm going to be billing as a provider. How does this affect me in any way? So I think having some resources for our providers in very basic, plain, common language you know, that would be very helpful. We talked about also having all the resources centralized. For example, what if a student doesn't have kind of any Medi-Cal insurance? What's the next step? Where do we refer these families? Having all those resources available in a centralized location would be helpful. But I think most importantly is having those frequently asked questions available for parents as an informed, you know, consent in a way. You know, when we go get vaccines, there's so many vaccine information for parents, informed consent. The same thing, we should kind of have it for our providers, because they're going to have a lot of questions, and they're going to confuse so many different programs. So just kind of going to the very basics of introducing what we're doing and what is the school-based health services, billing means, or services that are being billable through their insurance.
No, thank you, Brenda. And that's we have some discussion around that, and we probably wouldn't get there today. We kind of over planned just in case, but the informed consent and getting this information to our families is one of the things that we really want to ask our LEAs about, right? And Brenda kind of spoke to it, of the impact or the implications of all of this on our families and their insurance and the things that they don't understand, right? And so we have to be very intentional about supporting our LEAs in that. So not only do our LEAs need some guidance and some resources, but Brenda, you're kind of saying we also need to provide our LEAs with some information for their families that they serve, for their communities as well, right? So we want to make sure that we're holding those two things in thought as we're looking to develop this guide and this toolkit, right? And so we'll capture all of that. One of the things we really have to be considering is how do we accomplish these things, all right? This can't live at San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, because San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools doesn't necessarily have the intellectual property to do the things that you guys are describing, right? So in this network, do we pull from some of the partners, some of your folks who can do some of this work in your organizations, who might be able to be a part of a smaller subcommittee or something? And I'm just putting this out there as ways to think about how we can accomplish this, because it may not be the people in this room who can do some of this work. It might be somebody in your organization who can help provide some of that knowledge and information, especially when we're talking about our MCPs and our insurance plans. How do our LEAs, if we have a family who doesn't have Medi-Cal, well, San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools and Rialto, they don't necessarily have the capacity to say, this is where you go to get Medi-Cal. We're going to have to make sure that and I know they do because they've been at SB-HIP, but all of our LEAs don't have that muscle built. So we're certainly going to have to tap into Molina, Kaiser, and to IHP to help us build that as well. So again, just planting seeds. Any thoughts or anything from the three that anyone wanted to add to the discussion before we move forward? I see a hand. Yes, Brenda.
I'm thinking also, like, for example, a lot of part of Office of Education who's been part of cohort 1. I know up north there's a lot of districts or Office of Education that have been already part of cohort 1. Maybe reach out to them as well and see what they have implemented or how did they go about, and whatever kind of resource they might have for their community. You don't have to invent something if it's something's in place already, and piggyback, modify things too if there's something in place already from other cohorts.
Absolutely. And we have fortunately been a part of much of those statewide conversations and different cohort and meetings. So that's one of the things that San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools can certainly bring to the table, is some of that information and things that is coming from the state, or those opportunities, that those learnings, Brenda, kind of describing, that can be brought to this group and help inform how we can put it into the context of San Bernardino County, right? So as we get the state guidance, how do we take the state guidance and then we put it in our context and our county's context, right? And so I appreciate you lifting that, Brenda. Okay, and I'm gonna move to our next. Go ahead, Jameen. Go to our next slide and our next square. And this is a huge one for me, because this is where we've been spending a lot of time and discussion in our office around the electronic health record. And one of the things that we put in our implementation plan is that we want to purchase a countywide EHR that our LEAs can utilize to support the work they're doing in their behavioral and mental health, right? And so even one of the things that the discussion in our office has really been around is what does an EHR mean, right? And I know we know it means electronic health record, but how is it being utilized, right? Where for our mental health folks and people who actually provide service, and they might even be in the community-based organization. One of the things Veronica has brought to our team is her understanding and her experience of utilizing and working in a behavioral health environment. And when we talk about the EHR, we've been talking about it we've been talking about it from the standpoint of it working alongside with the Practical and Paradigm and all those things, where Veronica's saying, hey, well, what is that for when the EHR already does the billing and all those kind of things? So we really want to make sure that we, as we're talking about purchasing the EHR, that we're purchasing from the San Bernardino County office, that we're purchasing the right thing for our districts and utilizing it in a way that is going to, again, prepare them for the fee schedule, prepare them to send claims, as well as provide access to services for our students, right? And keep our districts sovereign and safe in the way that they do it. So our next question is going to be around the EHR. Jameen, if you go to the next slide, I'll read the question, and we're going to breakout rooms again to kind of talk about that. But just for our network, for this group, what is your vision for a countywide electronic health record? What would be the usage? How would we implement a countywide electronic health record? And would that electronic health record work across different agencies and would have access? So again, just in your vision and your idea of how we can do a countywide EHR, certainly want to hear your thoughts on what that could look like. Any clarifying questions on this question? And Brenda, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So if there are, okay. Oh, you just putting it in there. Collaboration across behavioral and mental health. So, Jameen, can you set that next breakout room, 3 breakout rooms? And we'll do another 6 minutes and we'll come back and discuss this. And this will probably end our meeting because we probably won't have enough time after that. Okay. So thank you all for participating in that. I'm gonna start off with Alex, with your group, just around some of your discussion.
Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and let Sylvia do the reporting out.
Hi, yes, this was great conversation, so I hope I can remember everything, and if I don't, guys, please jump in.
I will.
Okay, so basically, what we were talking about here is just understanding, what the intent is with countywide EHR system. And we know that kids move around and is being able to access the information or share data. And then we started talking about how different LEAs are structured, right? You have some that's too small and may not want to engage in an EHR system at all. You may have some that have their own mental health department and have their own system. And then you have like ours, we're documenting in various places. We have our SAFE system that most of our providers are working in that system, but they are not documented in that system, right? Or our SPED care, I'm saying they're not documented in our SPED care system, which is our EHR system or Practical. They're monitoring CDEs, but they're documented in SAFE. And so documentation is happening in other areas. And then we may have, like for the multi-payer fee schedule, we want to bring in other providers that's actually providing tier 2 services who have no idea what SPED care is, and they're documenting in Synergy. And then, someone else is documenting elsewhere. So I think for us, there would need to be a larger conversation and then quickly to pull, start to get people under this understanding, this is what we want to do, because there's so many different systems that play. I think one of the other things we were talking about is just the culture around the EHR systems, right? People may not engage. And guys, if I forgot anything, please jump in there. But that, for the most part, that's where we were.
No. Alex, is that good?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, no, that was pretty much overall what we were talking about.
Thank you, Alex and Sylvia and your group for that. Marwa, what about you all?
So we had more questions. Some shared that from like the Medi-Cal world, there's a lot of questions that they have that they would like to make sure that we are exploring before purchasing an electronic health record. So some of the questions were like, is it HIPAA compliant? How will that be protected? Who's going to actually have access to this information? Is it compatible with what the LEAs currently have in place? And then really a conversation of like the intention, why did we decide to purchase an EHR for the county? What's the intention behind it? And I know Rebecca shared that it is optional for the LEAs that don't have an EHR and that would like to be a part of one. But that was really our conversation, more questions than anything.
Yeah, and me and Farah we were discussing in our own small group just the intention and her vision and Dr. Houston's vision on this. And Farah, you want to kind of just talk to that really quick?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we've been learning over the past few months and even year is that there are definite barriers across all of these systems, like Sylvia was mentioning, and we have an opportunity with the capacity grant to support something countywide if it's beneficial to LEAs and the agencies. And so when we're talking about EHR versus EMR, those can be two very different things. And so really what we want to be able to understand is there a need? We believe there is, but really ask, is there a need? And then are we talking about an electronic health record? Because I believe that there could be probably different definitions, or electronic medical record. And that would really be linking the agencies across the county to utilize one platform. So that's really the bigger question, is understanding the difference and understanding the need and being able to leverage our dollars that we have to support the need and to address the need. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We do want to be able to get that authentic feedback, is if this is going to be something that's beneficial to the majority of our LEAs, understanding that there might be exceptions, but we're trying to address all of those things, or in part what Sylvia was mentioning. And I'm sure others have similar or other types of feedback that they could share. But from our perspective, we're really just trying to be supportive of a countywide system.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, that's just providing some more of the context of, and even some of the questions, Marta, that you brought to it, why we thought to do it. So I wanted Farah to kind of bring why we are considering this. Karen, what about group one?
Hi, Veronica, do you want to share or do you want me to share? Veronica was taking notes too.
You can go ahead. You can report out.
Okay, if I miss anything, just fill me in. So we called it an EHR wish list. That was fun. There was some people who shared that they're having a hard time processing a countywide EHR because they work with school sites and they're running into a lot of documentation issues, especially with that data sharing. It would be hard and they're getting stuck in that conversation on what a countywide EHR could look like. It was shared that it would be much easier for people who aren't using an EHR like charter schools because they don't have something in place. So that funding would make sense for them to have an EHR. Let's see. And then we shared the ideal to have a countywide EHR to assess how services provided to students would impact academics, attendance, test scores, and then link it to the managed care plan so everyone could see the medical impact to test scores. Sharing of information would be helpful. We talked about how data sharing is a kind of a taboo word. Nobody wants to talk about it because it gets into HIPAA and FERPA conversations. Focusing on those outcome measures, but outcomes mean a lot more. So seeing the correlations between outcomes and achievements, and with that truly integrated system of care, which is what CYBHI is all about. Let's see. Again, we talked about the data and the system of care, and somebody talked about how it would be a barrier to relearn a system when they already have an EHR in place. So that might be a barrier and there might be some pushback because some LEAs already have an electronic health record that they have been using for years and years and years. But we also talked about how it would be nice to have so we can see the duplicate services being offered and then how to bill or where the billing is going to, if it's going to LEA BOP, ESMA, CYBHI. And so that would be nice to see that so we can see the duplicated services happening. Anything else that I missed, team?
And I did want to ask though, to the group, and it's not something that can be figured out today, but is the benefit greater than the difficulty in having a countywide? So thinking about the benefit to having a countywide EHR, because for those districts that just have it encapsulated with their own district, that's one thing, but to be able to see what's happening to that student as they move around the county or the interactions they're having with other agencies or other providers throughout the county is, it might be a pipe dream. It might be something that seems so difficult to tackle, but would it be worth it in the end? So that's why I'm trying to get an idea of what we are trying to understand is this a goal of ours for this county to have truly a county-wide system where others, they can't see everything, but they could see what they need to know in supporting the care of a student as they move across the county and for other reasons as well.
You're talking about having, sorry, if I'm understanding correctly, you're talking about having one electronic health record in which multiple LEAs would be inputting information. There's not necessarily a problem with that, but the idea that the LEAs would be able to see any information from another LEA brings up a whole other issue, right? Depending on which guidelines you're functioning under. And so I'm not quite sure what you were thinking, but San Bernardino County Behavioral Health, even if we had the same electronic health record as Riverside County, behavioral health just for the sake of saving money or efficiency, it would be a violation if I could see all their clients, even though they're Medi-Cal clients, right?
Right, and I
So
had
just look into that.
Yeah, I've had very minimal conversations so far regarding that, but we have learned that there's other counties, and Mike Lombardo at Placer, I believe that they were able to get some information. So it's not a total open window into a record, but there's layers that can be turned on and off. And so, those are, there may be a potential, but I don't, I am throwing it out there to the group to see if this is something that we should pursue in this way, in that large scale way, or if it's something that is just an EHR that a district would utilize just for their district, and it would just stay within their district and nothing else can be seen in terms of encounters with other providers outside of that district.
Farah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, I know part of my hesitancy in kind of responding to that question, granted, managed care plans are probably not as impacted as LEAs would be, but it's almost like we don't know what we don't know. So, thinking it would be awesome if you could sort of see, okay, for this to happen, here are two options of how it could happen and high level considerations under each. Then you could kind of see, all right, are these issues like insurmountable? Would this be a no-go? Or, okay, with a little help, with some consultation, some support from various organizations, the good would outweigh the challenges, So I almost like, I want to sort of understand what it would take, and I don't know that.
And certainly noted some of the research and work that we can do, the background work that we can do to kind of bring something like that to this group, right? Would help. Again, much of it, and we lean on, and Veronica's been here. I think Veronica's in maybe her week 6 or something. So we're leaning a lot on Veronica in this area because I'm a school guy. My team is school people. Marwa is public health. Farah's public health. And so we are learning this. And so Veronica has been helping us kind of understand that landscape. So maybe us developing something, as you're talking about, Amrita, that we could bring back to the group and have that discussion. Veronica, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say HIPAA probably would not allow that big high level goal, because that means you're getting parents' consent to share information. And even that comes with, what type of information you're able to share.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, certainly a great conversation. We got a lot of wish list items.
Yeah, and we'll go back to it, and we have 5 minutes. Jameen, if you will go, thank you guys for that discussion. We're going to pass. Jameen, go to the next step slide, please. And like I said, we packed in 2 hours of a meeting, but I didn't want to do 2 hours on virtual. I don't want to put y'all to sleep in a virtual meeting. One more, and this stuff we can revisit in our next meeting. But I wanted to make sure to go over our just next steps and some things that we're taking away from today's meeting is, again, just even this EHR conversation. Much of our many of our LEAs have been really pressing about this idea around the countywide electronic health record. And I think they don't necessarily look at it as a health record that's going to speak across agencies, more for some of the ones who don't have an EHR, who are not utilizing the EHR at this point, are looking at it as the county is going to pay for me to have an EHR. And so part of that discussion is going to be is going to happen at our community of practice on the 27th of March. But the good thing about that is we have a steering committee meeting January 14th that hopefully our steering committee meeting will be around the EHR. So some of the stuff that we have planned for today may not come back out in the January meeting of this network meeting on the 14th, because we want to spend a lot of time on that electronic health record conversation so that we can begin that larger conversation with our participants, our LEA participants. Okay, so we're really hoping that we can utilize our next meeting to really start to look at this electronic health record or electronic medical record as we look to implement it countywide. One of the things Farrah brought up was asking you all, we want to have that in-person energy and bring people together and you know, we know that's a different type of feeling in the meeting, but is the virtual option much better for you all? So we want to just ask that before we left in these last couple minutes. Is this better for the space for us to get together and to get attendance? Because this is great. I had emails saying I can't come, and then the people who emailing are here. So is this a better option for this setting? Just opinion. Yes, virtual, easier, right? Okay. Any other? Thank you, Gabriella, for that. Yeah. So of course we know it's much more convenient, right? So we're okay with you losing the, you know, what in-person brings to get the attendance. I think we're all good with that.
You guys did an amazing job keeping us engaged. So I felt like we have it here.
So you just saying that so you ain't got to drive, or we really mean that?
No, really. You guys did great.
No, it was engaging and again, great conversation. So I didn't feel, you know, virtual awkward like you do sometimes in meetings. So we will set that up for our January 14th meeting to be virtual as well. Okay. And so that way we can get the attendance, and then we just, our job as facilitators of the meeting, just to continue to make it engaging and make it meaningful for the participants, right? And so certainly appreciate the conversation. All resources and this recording will be available if you have folks who didn't get to come or you want to involve somebody else into the conversation. Certainly appreciate you all. That's the QR code and the link to the live binder. We have a live binder for that. Farrah, is there anything you wanna say before we end?
Just thank you, everybody, for your collaboration and partnership. It's critical to the success of this work, and so we really value you, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you.